And Duffy here with our seminar on creating and attracting great relationships. We're going to talk a lot about you tonight and how this all begins with you. Great relationships. Every one of our relationships are a reflection of how we're feeling. So we're going to kind of dive into that and see how we're feeling and see what people are reflecting back to us. Because realize that everything that comes along your path is something that you're attracting. So every person is kind of a window into our soul and what's going on and what we're thinking and what we're feeling. So it's really important to realize that. The most important relationship is the relationship you have with yourself. It is absolutely the most important relationship. So when you begin to realize that spending time by yourself, focusing within, being independent, and not having other people fill you up and try to create happiness because of your relationships, you're going to be a much more happier and centered person. I used to be a very lonely person. I didn't like being alone, especially my husband would work late a lot and I would be alone with the kids a lot and I would just be miserable. It was like I was just waiting for him to come home. And then I had a complete shift in my own personality and what I wanted to create in my life. And I started to meditate and go within. And that's when I realized, wow, I really like being alone. I love it. It's like one of the best things I can do for myself is kind of to go within and just to be by myself and have that quiet and introspection. Your connection within will determine all of your relationships and experiences with others. Your connection within, I believe, is the connection to your self esteem and how you're feeling about yourself. So when you really connect within and you find your true power, that's when you have that full on deep connection and no one can mess with that. That's when you stay in your vibrational alignment no matter what's going on around you, no matter what circumstances going on around you. So it's really interesting to recognize that and realize that you're the power. You have the power to create anything you want in your life in any relationship. Okay, when you love yourself and feel your true worthiness, you are better at loving others. And that is absolutely true. In order to love others, you have to start with yourself. So, again, I met my husband at a very young age. I was actually 12 when I met him, 12 when I fell in love with him, and 14 when we started dating. And, it took me a really long time over the course of many, many years to realize that giving him all of my love and him having to create my happiness, the poor guy, and me relying on him to create my happiness was quite a chore. And thankfully he stuck in there with me. And now, he comes home and I'm just really happy and centered. And we just have a much different relationship because I'm not looking for him to fill me up all the time because I'm filled up. So that's what you really want to focus on is filling yourself and connecting within so that you can actually create from your own power. That way, your circumstances won't define you. Your relationships won't define you. Who you are is who you are, not what other people say you are or what other people try to make you. Until you know who you are, you cannot give fully of yourself. This is absolutely true. I remember when I first started meditating and I was thinking, who am I? Like, what is this whole centering stuff? And I didn't understand, and you won't understand until you actually get in relationship with yourself. We're so busy all day and we're so in this survival mode that we don't even recognize, we don't even stop, we don't even slow down to look within and to ask ourselves the really important questions of, who am I and what do I want to create in this life? What am I passionate about? What are my desires? This is what fuels everything. This is what connects you to the creative life force. I had an epiphany this week. It was pretty major too. Um, I'm reading this book called Do You Quantum Think, and I highly, highly recommend it by Diane Collins. And I've actually had some interesting go-betweens with her on Facebook, and she is absolutely just the most beautiful woman who just lives her truth, and she's been a huge support to me. And Do You Quantum Think talks about this power, and it talks about this creative life force. And I realized that when we're plugged in, it's like electricity. Electricity does us no good if we're not plugged in. You can flick the switch as many times as you want. If the light's not plugged in, it's not going on. So that's what meditation does, is it actually plugs us into this creative life force. When you are plugged into that creative life force and you have that belief and that knowing that you're always going to be supported, you never have a financial concern again. I'm serious. I have no financial concerns. I know that I'm completely supported and taken care of no matter what I want to do. And I'm going to make some big leaps this year, some quantum leaps in my life, and I can't wait to share them with you because they're going to be quantum. That's what this book is all about, making quantum leaps. So it's about connecting to that creative life force and then having that knowing, that deep knowing. And I've been doing a crap load of meditation to get myself here to recognize that I am connected. I'm so connected to this creative life force that I have no worries. I'm just going to follow my passions. I'm going to follow my highest excitement, and everything is just going to unfold beautifully. So that's what that is really all about. Creating happiness no matter what others do. I have a lot of people that come to me and ask me, how can I fix my husband? How can I change my boyfriend? How can I make my kids behave? And the reality is that you cannot change people. However, you can create energy that helps them to act differently and to behave differently around them. This is probably my favorite thing when it comes to relationships, is changing how you feel about people so that you actually create different behaviors from them. It's absolutely brilliant. I use it with everyone in my life. I can actually shift my husband. Shh, don't tell him. Hopefully he won't watch this. I can actually shift my husband just with my thoughts. So you can pay attention to that and realize that circumstances do not define you. Your happiness is the key. So when you have circumstances in your life or when you have relationships in your life that don't feel perfect, the best thing that you can do is just focus on the wanted. So ask yourself, so often we look at people and what we don't want from them. We look at the things that they're doing that are wrong. We complain about them. We tell them what they're doing wrong. We tell them how to fix it. We're constantly looking at people as if they're broken. And the reality is everything that you're focused upon expands. So the more you focus on the things that you don't like about them, the more you're going to attract that stuff. If you're yelling at people, if you're yelling at your kids, I used to yell at my kids. I'm not ashamed to say it, because I think that my kids have been a huge window into my soul and a huge window into the triggers that I grew up with and the things that actually really kind of made me crazy when I was a little kid. They've healed me. They've healed me in that way, because I've been able to take those situations and say, why does this drive me so crazy? And then find out where the source of that is, and then, release it in my meditations and become a better mom because of it. So it's knowing that you're the creator of your reality. So no matter what is going on around you, it's recognizing that first you have a role in this. If your life isn't the happiness that you want it to be, you're the creator of it. So you have to recognize that. So, we're giving up victim mentality again. If you're back there, if you're back being a victim again, we're going to give that up, because being a creator of your own reality has no room for victim mentality. Your focus determines your outcome. So whatever you're focused upon with a person is actually what you're going to attract. So if you're focused on their love, and if you're focused on how amazing they are, and if you're focused on all of their good qualities, then that's actually what you're going to attract from them. Recognizing when you are putting demands on others that you think will create your happiness. So oftentimes we think, this person is doing this to me. If they weren't doing this, I would be happy. But the reality is that, when you put demands on people and expectations on people, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. So instead of putting all these demands and expectations on people, if you just think of what you would prefer from them and you actually turn your focus towards what you actually want from them, then you're going to create that in your life. And it's going to be a much more happier, peaceful existence for everyone, for you and everyone around you. Focusing on what you want instead of what you don't want. So I mentioned how, I would yell at my kids, or I would tell my husband, I don't like that you're doing this, or I need this to change, or it's all focused on what you don't want. So when you actually turn your demands into preferences, there's a really great book called Life is a Gift by Ken Keyes, I think it is. And he talks about demands versus preferences. And instead of demanding people to do things, you tell them what you would prefer, and then you allow them to make the choice. I always do really well when I allow my kids to make a choice. I tell them, this is what needs to be done, you choose. And then they usually choose the right thing, because I'm thinking about what I want, right? So I create the energy that helps me to get what I want. That's how things go. But even if they don't give me what I want, I don't have an emotional, negative emotional reaction from it because I've given them my preference and I've said what I want. And if they choose differently, then that is their situation, right? That's none of my business. So that's a really good mantra. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Okay, so focusing on wanted. I have wonderful relationships with my friends, family, and coworkers. That is a great intention to set for yourself. When dealing with others, always ask yourself, what do I want? So if you find yourself in situations where you're complaining a lot, where you're being critical, where you're feeling like they're broken and you're worried, worry and anxiety is all about not seeing people for who they really are. When you hold them to a higher light, when you hold them to the people that they really are, the beings that they really are, when you hold them to that light, you actually raise their vibration and you allow them to step into that. Paying attention to things others do that make you unhappy actually activates more of it. So this is actually something that I wrote about in my parenting book. I noticed with my kids, when I would get upset with them for leaving a mess or, not cleaning their rooms, that they wouldn't do it. And I realized actually today, I realized their rooms are always pretty clean, pretty clean. And they were making jokes about my older two who have moved out, who actually keep very clean apartments. Interesting. But they were saying how, how messy their rooms used to be and how they're so much cleaner than their sisters were. And I was thinking about how much I used to, before I knew this stuff, how much I used to focus on that with them and be unhappy with them for their messy rooms. And now it's like, it's just there's no emotion to it. And so they take care of their rooms because that's how I take care of my house. And I'm not focused on what I don't want. So they actually kind of fall in line with the energy of what I do want. So it's really, really powerful stuff. It's changed a lot in my life. That was, believe it or not, a really silly thing that I would get super dramatic over and I would spend a lot of negative emotion on. So what does that do? That drops my vibration. It drops your vibration when you're focused on things you don't want, when you're focused on things that don't make you happy. Something like a clean room is so silly and ridiculous. But for me, like being a stay-at-home mom and my house is my home and that's a reflection of me. I was always worried about what people thought. It was a big deal. So look at those things in your life that are a big deal, that you're making a big deal about, and ask yourself if they're really that important. If they're really that important to allow yourself to drop your vibration, become negative, and create all sorts of scenarios from that place. Ask yourself those questions. It's really important. Release those you love to be who they are and love them where they are at. Good stuff there, good stuff there, good stuff with parents and siblings and family and people that you just can't control, people that you feel like are so negative. One of the things I realized through this law of attraction thing is I lost friends. I definitely lost friends. Was that a sad thing? In some respects, yes, but in the respect that I really didn't enjoy spending time with them. I didn't enjoy conversation with them. Even when I'm in the grocery store and I see somebody and we don't see each other, I used to think, oh, that person's snobby. Now I think it's vibrational alignment. So if you notice that there's people that are kind of dropping out of your life that aren't really as active in your life as they used to be, recognize that that's vibrational alignment. So as you raise your vibration, your friends are going to change. You're going to find happier friends. You're going to find friends that are more in alignment. You're going to find friends who are concerned about their well-being, that want to be happy and want to be free from this stuff. So it's not a bad thing. Set intentions for your relationships. So this is something that I started probably maybe a good year, maybe 2 years even. Time goes so fast. Probably about 2 years ago, I kind of started setting intentions for my relationships, especially with the relationships that are really close to me, like my husband or my kids. And just recognized how the relationships would change depending on what I set, what I was focused upon. If I want my relationship to be loving and affectionate and I want it to be peaceful, those are the intentions that I set. Of course, everybody wants that, right? So you set the intentions, you write it down, you focus upon it, you attract it into your life, you build the energy upon it. we need to realize is that our thoughts, our feelings, our knowing is what creates the energy. So when you set the intention, it's like you're setting the knowing, you're setting the faith, you're putting the energy out, and it's going out into the universe and it's creating all these wonderful things for you. So intentions are really cool, especially in relationships. Addicted demands. This actually came from the idea of this came from the Ken Keyes book, and it's about recognizing the demands you put on others. So it could be unspoken demands, actually, or it could be, demands that you make and say, I expect you to do this, or, it could very well be unspoken. A lot of our demands in life are unspoken. We just expect people to, do the things that we expect them to do. When you up-level these demands by turning them into preferences, you actually change the energy. So instead of telling people what you want them to do, you tell them what you prefer. What that does, a lot of times, I don't know about you guys, but I have people in my life that when I make demands, it creates resistance because they want to do what they want to do, especially my little one. Wow, is she a teacher? She's 11 years old. When I make demands on her, she just pushes. So I just make preferences. I would prefer that you get up now so that your day runs smoothly, so that your morning runs smoothly, instead of creating those demands of get out of bed right now. Nobody likes to be, you have to think about yourself. What are the demands that people put upon you that don't feel good? Demands never feel good when people make demands. It's like something within us goes, hey, no, wait a minute, I want to do what I want to do. So creating them and up-leveling them into preferences changes the energy around them and actually gives people a feeling of choice, that they're at choice. And most likely they're going to go with your preference because of the way you've put it, and it'll create a lot less resistance in your relationships. Detach from outcomes and know that people are always doing what's right for them. I think it's really interesting. I was actually on the phone with a client before, and I thought it was really interesting because she's having some issues with her boyfriend, and he basically was telling her, I can't move in with you right now. It's not right for me. And she was really hurt and she felt really rejected. And I said, it's really interesting that you would feel rejected by what he's telling you, because he's literally telling you, it's me, it's not you. And as much as that's a joke and, people have created that as a funny thing, it's true. Like people are always doing what's right for them. And when we stop taking stuff so personally and we just say that's their stuff, then we actually alleviate a lot of negative emotion. And the idea is that we feel good, right? That's the only thing that matters, is that we feel good. So when we alleviate all those taking things personally, feeling like we're judging people, then we get rid of a lot of negative emotion and we actually allow ourselves to raise our vibrations. Take the pressure off of others to deliver on your demands by turning them into preferences. So that takes all the pressure out of people having to deliver for you, people having to, give in to your demands. I mean, that just sounds awful. So just take the pressure off. People need to do what's right for them. So when we give them the space and the energy to do that, create the intention in our minds of what we want, we actually create beautiful relationships. Judgment. No, this is funny. Actually, Dr. Phil said this. Know that people are not thinking about you as much as you thought they were. I can't even tell you how many stories I have made up in my head in the past of people. I mean, it's just, I have driven myself absolutely crazy. And I'm sure some of you can relate to this, that, when we think people are judging us, when we feel judgment, when we feel like people are, casting that judgment to us, it's actually just an awful feeling. And the truth is that we're judging ourselves. That's the basis of judgment. Making up those stories in your head. I have done this often, and I really am checking in with this lately, is making up stories about people in my head, what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they may be thinking about me. It's just so silly. It's like a fantasy land of negativity. And when you catch yourself doing it and you actually stop doing it, you're going to alleviate a lot of drama and a lot of negativity in your life. Know that the way you feel about you is reflected back by others. So this is really interesting, because if you have a lot of people who disrespect you, if you have a lot of people who treat you badly, you have to look within. You have to see within what's going on with you, because they are a reflection to you of what's going on inside of you. So if someone's treating you really bad, there's elements to it where you can actually look within. This is not like to think that every mean person in the world is your fault. This is just to recognize what is your stuff, and we're going to get into that too. By allowing yourself to not be concerned by others, what others are thinking, you free up a lot of your energy and raise your vibration. One of my favorite things, and I might have mentioned this later, is just it's none of my business. Like, what people are thinking is absolutely none of my business. And the fact of the matter is whatever people are thinking has to do with them. And even if they are making a judgment about me, they have no idea who I am or what I walk through or what's going on in my life. So the judgments that they're making probably aren't even very valid. And who really cares, right? Who really cares? Why would we even waste energy there? But I have done it. And I think it's probably a woman thing. Just judging from the way my husband is, it's probably a woman thing. Trust in your own guidance and in theirs. Oh, this is so good. Trust in your own guidance. Notice when you are asking others for advice. Go within and ask yourself instead. So I've noticed a lot that when we have those times of feeling disconnected, when we have those times of just not knowing what to do, just being very indecisive, that we're actually, we've pulled the plug. We've pulled the plug on who we are, and we're not fully connected to who we really are. Because if you were, you could go within and ask yourself instead. And I do this about everything. I do this about what I want to eat. I do this about, which road to take, which way to go when I go somewhere. I ask within because I feel like there's divine guidance there, and I feel like there's an intuition that is, could be avoiding accidents, or, I could be eating something that is super healthy, or I could be eating something that makes me feel good. So it's important for you to go within and ask yourself. Come to the knowing that everyone has their own guidance. Your kids, your parents, your spouse, everyone has their own guidance. And when you allow them to have that guidance, I'm constantly telling my kids, check within. What do you think? I think so often we get caught up in these roles of being parents, or, we get in these roles with people in relationships, and we're constantly telling them what they should do. I got kids calling me. How cute is that? I think it's, what was I saying? Yes. So, recognizing that people have their own guidance, and when you allow them that space to make choice and to actually connect with who they really are, you allow a lot of really good things, especially with your kids as they're coming up. To have them to connect to that guidance is going to help them and serve them throughout their whole life, so that you're not their source of advice or wisdom. Everyone has their own wisdom, everyone has their own guidance. So trusting in that, trusting that people have their own guidance, and telling people that, telling people you have your own guidance, right? Let me know what it is. When you connect to your own guidance, you feel peace. You always will feel peace. You will feel relaxed, you will feel peaceful, and you will have a knowing about things. Meditation is the key to connecting within and then acting on that inspiration. So some may say that meditation's great and I feel really relaxed when I'm there, but then when I get up from my chair, things go crazy and they're chaotic. But I can honestly tell you that if you commit to a meditation practice, that you're going to notice it's going to spill over into every single area of your life. And then you're going to have these inspirations. And then you're going to act on inspirations that create opportunities and help you to connect with people and just give you a really awesome, fulfilled life. I am absolutely living proof. Empowering others. When we no longer feel like people are broken or need fixing, we see them for who they really are. Ooh, I love that. I love that so much. When we constantly give advice and think we know better for someone, we actually disempower them. I'm definitely guilty of this. I've done this probably with each one of my children. One of my daughters, I have recently just been kind of asking her more. She's older now, and it's time for her to start stepping into that power and to realize who she is. So I've definitely been empowering her in that way, to ask her own, what her own feelings are and what she thinks. And, when we do that with people, we actually empower them to connect and to really get firm in what they believe and what their truth is. By being connected to who we are, we actually empower others to their own connection. So this is really interesting. If you are, let's say you're in a really good mood and you wake up in the morning and you're feeling appreciation and you're feeling love, because remember, when you wake up in the morning, that's the first chance you have to grab onto something that feels really good. You have, two choices. You can pick up from yesterday of all the things that were worrying you, or you can start fresh today. So you have a brand new day to work with and to set a vibrational tone for. So you wake up in the morning and you're feeling love and you're feeling appreciation and you're just happy. You're in your warm home and you've got your coffee brewing and you feel really good. And then, somebody walks in the room and they are having the exact opposite experience from you. They woke up on the wrong side of the bed and they're not feeling good and they hate the weather and they just hate school. And this sounds familiar to me. And you have a choice. You are at choice at that moment to either stay in your alignment with love and appreciation and feeling good, or you can go down their road and you can drop your vibration to where they are. If you make the choice of dropping your vibration to where they are, no one has a chance of going anywhere except down. Believe me, I've tried it, I've done it. It works. If you stay in your own alignment, literally, I don't want to say ignoring where they are, but I want to say being loving towards them when they aren't in a loving space, when they are not feeling like being loving themselves. If you can turn love towards them and you can come from a different place, when you can come from your full high vibrational place, man, you shift the energy like that. It's so incredible. So staying in your own alignment. By looking and focusing on all of their good qualities, we empower them to act more from that place. So when you have that person, who's not in a good vibrational place, who's not feeling good, who's not acting from a place of who they really are, they've become disconnected, they've pulled their plug, you can actually help them to plug that plug back in. You can help them. You can reconnect them just by being in your loving place and seeing them for who they really are, seeing them for the bright light that they are. I trust your guidance is the best thing you can say to someone. So, people come to us for advice and they want to know what we think. You can give your advice. Sometimes our perspective is amazing for people because we're disconnected. That's actually what I do in my coaching, is I just give people perspective because we're not so close to the problem. We can be more solution oriented. So perspective is awesome. Give your perspective all day long if that makes you feel good. But in the end of the conversation, saying, I trust your guidance, I believe in you, I support you in what you decide, is really, really empowering stuff. Release yourself from saving the world. I'm so guilty of this. It is not your job to save the world. Saving yourself is saving the world. So recognize that when you are in full alignment of who you are, when you are living your passion and you are living your desires, and you feel really, really good, you are going to affect so many people. You truly are. Recently, sometimes I can be really silly when I go out and about, and I just want to see kind of how far I can take people, just for fun, just to kind of wake people up. That's my thing now. I'm just going to wake people up. So I was in Target the other day with my little ones and I went to the cashier and she was just kind of like, "Hey, how are you?" And I said, "So how's your day going?" And she was like, "All right, I'm really tired. I've been working since Monday. I got to work till next Tuesday." And I said, well, money's good, right? So I'm trying to help her to like shift it a little bit to see where the work is actually a good thing. So she said, "Yeah, money's good." And I said, "Well, what do you like to do with your money? What do you like to do for fun?" And then she started talking about her husband and how they like to go out to eat. And I said, we get so caught up in survival that we forget to have fun. She's like, "You're so right." And I noticed as I was walking away that the next person she greeted, her vibration was totally raised. She was like, "Hi, how are you?" And it was so like I got her out of her head. I got her out of her tiredness. And we can do that for anybody. I was literally in front of this girl for like 3 minutes and I felt a shift in my own energy just from doing that. So I guess that's part of saving the world, waking people up. So I can't do that if I'm not in my own space, if I'm not feeling really good within myself, if I'm all caught up in my monkey mind, I'm not going to reach out to people. So realize that, recognize that, and see how much you can do that with people, because it's going to pull you out of your woe is me, survival mode, monotony world. It's gonna reshape your life. It really does. It works well. Know that when you get involved in other people's situations and allow it to drop your vibration, you no longer can be solution oriented. I have a lot of clients that get really super involved with their families, like really involved, biological families, blood is thicker than water. We got to stick together. We got to make this suck, A lot of people that do this, and they get all mixed up in other people's problems that they have nothing to do with. They absolutely have nothing to do with it, but they get all immersed in it because they don't see people for who they really are. They don't see people for their own power, and they think, I have to go in and save them. Well, this is the thing. If you jump onto a boat that has a hole in it that's going down, you're going down too. So your best bet is to stay out of that boat so that you can start throwing people life rafts, right? Life jackets. Yeah. That's your best bet, because if you get in the boat with them, you're all going down. So detach yourself a little bit from people's problems. Remind yourself, have a mantra. That's none of my business. None of my business. If you have coworkers at work that have issues and problems and you're getting all wrapped up in them, just don't own that stuff. They're worried, worrying about them, having anxiety, especially with our kids. I have older kids, and I have to hold them in the highest regard. I have to hold them in the highest light so that I don't get into that mama bear worry, so that I don't sit there and have anxiety that they're not going to be okay. I have to hold them in a higher light to know that they have their own guidance and that they have their own connection. And by me doing that and putting out that energy, that's actually what I help them to create. So that's our best way of being in relationship. Love that saying. That's none of my business. I have to say it with my kids. I really do, because they have their own lives now. And, as much as they come to me for advice and stuff, it's not really my business to get all wrapped up. And it's not a mean thing. It's not like, that's none of my business, I don't want to get involved. It's more of like, I'm going to stay in a high vibrational place so that I can be the most help. So I can be on the land, calling people in instead of getting in the boat and drowning with them. Stop worrying about what others do. Stop worrying about others. You do no good for you or them. So when you worry about people, you actually create a low vibration. When you tell them about your worry and your concern, you actually create a low vibration for them, and you help them to attract whatever you're worried about. So just remember that worry, just like every other emotion, activates and actually creates what you don't want. So I know worry is something that feels like a very human condition, something that we've been very conditioned to do. So, you come up with a mantra, you meditate more, you breathe, you release, and then refocus yourself on what you actually do want, because worry is actually focusing on what you don't want. Up level your view. I love the word up level. Take a higher perspective on all of the people you come in contact with. So that would be, your family members, your friends, your co-workers, looking at people in a different light. So oftentimes we look at people for what we see, for what they show us, but everyone is an amazing, incredible creation. Everyone is connected to this creative life force, whether they have themselves unplugged or not. Everyone has the potential to plug in. So the more we see them in that light, the more we can hold them to a higher standard, the more we can focus on their positive aspects and what we love about them, the more we're going to actually attract that. Instead of judging them on their behavior, take a higher view and see them for who they really are. So that's the judgment thing again. When we're judging, we're actually activating that kind of energy, and we're actually going to call judgments upon ourselves. So instead of judging people, really looking at them. This was something that I came to a while ago, because I'm in a business, and in the very beginning of my business, there was a lot of promotions and things, and I was feeling pressured, and I did things that I wasn't proud of, and I did things that were not authentic to me. And now looking back, I've heard of some other people doing that, and I look at them and I go, oh yeah, I totally get how that could happen. I get how you can lose yourself. So instead of judging people, I take a step back and I just recognize that, we're all human, and we all kind of create from a certain place, and we've all been through different experiences to actually shape our experiences. So just checking in with yourself instead of judging people, just loving them is actually going to serve you more than anyone else. Write down everything that's great about the person. So anyone that you're having issues with, anyone you're struggling with, anyone, even people that you're not, write down everything that is great about them. This is called positive aspects. And when you focus upon somebody's positive aspects, you actually create the energy to attract that from them. So now you're going to be looking at them differently. You're going to have a different expectation of them, and then you're going to have a very different experience. It's one of my favorite things to do. Turn your attention towards what you want from this person. So that's what the positive aspects does, really. It helps you to turn your attention toward what you want instead of what you don't want. Your thoughts are powerful enough to shift someone without saying a word. Oh, this is like magical. When I realized this, my husband he's a wonderful man. He's absolutely wonderful, but he's Irish. So he's got this thing where if you tell him what to do, he'll do the opposite. That could be really annoying. And he's gotten better. I mean, he's kind of outgrown that. But what I've noticed is that when I push against him and when I tell him things that I don't like about him, it seems to make things worse. So what I realized is that I can just set intentions in my mind. I can just focus on what I love about him, and it actually shifts all the energy. And it's so amazing how this works. It works so well that it's kind of my secret. And I kind of tell all the wives about it. Because, men can be stubborn for sure. We can all be stubborn. So it's just focusing upon what we really want and allowing the energy to shift by what we're focused upon. Remember, complaining and discussing only focuses on what you don't want and sets up resistance in others. Your thoughts are powerful enough to shift someone without saying a word. I have to say that again because I think that, we think that if we don't communicate with people, we're not going to get anywhere. And sometimes I think communication can actually be a bad thing if you're coming from a place of telling people what to do. Communication is one of the most wonderful things, but if you're coming from a place of telling them what to do or telling them what you dislike, you're going to create a lot of resistance. So this is just a different way to communicate. It's actually an energetic way to communicate. You can communicate, but communicate with compassion and love, and you'll have different results. Let go of defensiveness. When others communicate with you about things they are unhappy about, go within and see what your stuff is. I think we're programmed to be defensive when people say things that may be hurtful to us, or accuse us of stuff, or tell us stuff that they don't like. It's so easy for us to get into defensive mode. But when you recognize that defensive mode actually is a block in energy, then you can actually create a new expansion within yourself. So you can actually see, okay, what's my stuff in this? What can I own in this? I've had friendships that have ended, and I used to get really defensive and it was her fault and she shouldn't have done this. It sounds so high school, but sometimes that's how we are. And this actually hasn't happened in a really long time, but I remember just being super defensive. And now when I have relationships, it's like reflecting. What is my stuff in this? What do I need to expand? What do I need to improve? What do I need to learn from this whole experience? And when you come from that and you come from compassion and love, you change the whole relationship. And that's definitely been my experience. And a lot of my relationships have not ended because of that. Being reflective is the way to true expansion. So when things are happening with you, when you're feeling triggered, when you're feeling defensive, going within and saying, where does this fear come from? What is this in me? You actually make huge leaps. I had a situation with my two little ones. They're not really little anymore. They're 11 and 13. And they were fighting a lot. And my oldest, funny, they really don't do this anymore. It's like when you clean up your stuff, you clean up their stuff too. So my 13-year-old was picking on my 11-year-old, and I was just being triggered. I mean, just crazy, like yelling and just not myself and feeling really off about the situation. And so I had to sit down and meditate and figure it out. And what I realized was it came from my childhood, because when I was 13, my brother used to pick on me a lot. So I went back to, I instantly went back to like what I was doing at their ages. And I realized that that was a big trigger for me, that whole teasing and picking on you thing was just a big trigger for me because it was so hurtful and it was a wound for me. and I didn't want my little one to experience that. So recognizing that actually, helped us to dissipate the whole situation, and it doesn't happen anymore. So cool. So asking yourself, going within, what is my stuff? What am I afraid of? Why is this triggering me? You're going to get answers. You're absolutely going to get answers. When you are no longer defensive, you have movement and expansion in your experience instead of being stuck and resistant. That's why we get stuck and resistant in relationships, because nobody wants to move. Everybody's like, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. This actually happened to my daughter recently with a roommate, and they were just like butting heads. And finally, her roommate came to her and said, I love you. You're my best friend. And it changed everything. So, that's a huge part of recognizing, if you really want to move in relationships, how to move the energy. Notice how often you make up stories about others that are simply not true. I can still be guilty of this. I'm getting really aware, but yeah, notice how often you make up stories about others that are simply not true. And when you actually communicate with people, you realize that that was just something you made up in your head, and it caused a lot of negative emotions. Um, so try not to do that. I'm definitely going to try not to do that anymore. Your only goal is happiness. That's it. Isn't that nice? Isn't that so special? Like, that's my only goal. I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what makes me happy? What brings me joy? Um, Allowing others to steal your happiness is a crime. I love that. Don't allow others to steal your happiness. People cannot make you unhappy. Only you can allow that. They could be doing their thing over here, flipping out, having a temper tantrum, and you can literally just be standing there like, okay, it's not my stuff. What others do is always about them, but sometimes when they are close to us, there are lessons for us too. Open yourself up to what they might be. So most of the time, these things are about them, but when you're involved in it, a lot of times there's lessons for you in that as well. Like I said, what's my stuff? What am I, especially if you're experiencing a lot of negative emotion, that's a trigger for you, and that's something to look at and something to release and expand from. Allow yourself to feel what you need to, but then release it and get on with your higher vibration. So our feelings are our feelings, right? You got to feel what you got to feel. So feeling your feelings and recognizing them, and really ruminating about them and trying to figure out where they come from and why they are, and if they're even true for you anymore, because a lot of times we come from those past experiences. Clearly nobody's bullying me anymore and I'm not being teased anymore. So that was a past emotion, a past trigger, a past belief that I needed to shed. So it's important to look at that stuff. Love is always the answer. Love is the highest vibration. Love and appreciation are the two highest vibrations we can have. And that's why I'm always like, love, 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 come from a place of love, because it is the highest vibration. It is who we truly are. When you come from love, you allow healing and you move energy. So it allows healing within relationships. It allows healing within people around us. People are not used to being loved for where they are. They're used to people trying to fix them and tell them what's wrong with them. So when we come from a place of love, we completely change the energy. Most of our challenges would disappear if we just applied more love. So like I said about my daughter's roommate, and I kept telling her, I'm like, go to her and tell her you love her. When you say I love you, it changes everything. I had a girlfriend a few years back, and she, here I am teaching this law of attraction stuff, and she's just creating these nightmare relationships with these guys, and this guy was literally like stalking her. So we're out to lunch and he's parked across the street, and she ended up backing her car into a rock. She backed her car into a rock, her brand new car, I think it was a week old. And she got a big ding in the back of her car, and she was just beside herself. And all she would do was talk about this guy. That was our whole entire experience when we were out to lunch together. And I finally said, I couldn't take it anymore. And I said, I teach this stuff for a living, and I can't sit here and watch you do this to yourself anymore. And she got really upset, and she got really angry. And she started to, get really mad and say hurtful things. And I just looked at her and I said, I just love you, and I just don't want to see you go through this anymore. And it changed everything. It changed the whole conversation. Like, we ended up crying and hugging and, helping her get out of the situation that was making her so crazy. So when you say I love you, when you mean it, when you come from that place, when you allow yourself to not give in to the negative emotions or to see people in that light of what you don't want, you change the whole thing. So I love you changes everything as long as you are in the vibration of feeling love. So it's not just saying I love you, it's actually meaning it, it's actually feeling it, it's actually coming from that compassionate place with people, even if they're crazy, even if they're mad, even if they're, not being who they really are. It's still reflecting that to them. It's still seeing them for who they really are so that they can plug themselves back in. That's what it does. It gives them the ability to plug themselves back in. Ask, believe, receive. It's one of my favorite pictures. Changing the energy without saying a word. So the law of attraction works just like this. And we can use it in relationships, we can use it in any part of our life. You just ask. So you ask for what you want. I'm always doing this. I'm just going to ask. I'm going to ask. Whoever's there, I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask for what I want. That's step one. Step two is to step into that place of believing that it's already done. So when you believe that something's already done, you don't have worry, you don't have anxiety, you don't take it back, you let it go. You just believe that it's already done. You believe that the relationship is beautiful and wonderful as you want it to be, and then you allow yourself to receive it. And the receiving end of it really is just letting it go. So it's not trying to make it happen, not trying to force it to happen, but just believing and watching as these things unfold. Become what is missing. This is one of my favorite favorite realizations. And this actually has to do with relationships. This has to do with anything that you want to create in your life. There's a great saying about, this was Derek Rydell, actually. These teachings are from Derek. And what he says is, when you have a desire, it's like you get pregnant with a desire. So you get pregnant with a desire. And what does a pregnant woman do? She doesn't just like pop the baby out as soon as she gets pregnant. She makes the baby welcome. So what do you do to make the baby welcome? You get the nursery ready. You do the things to actually get the baby welcome. You paint the nursery, you buy the diapers, you buy the clothes, you get excited, you pick a name. Those are all the things you do to get ready for the baby. So those are the things that you do with your desires. You become what is missing. Whatever it is that you wish to create in your life, you have to become that first. So first you have to get really clear about what your desire is. That's the plugging in is going to help you to do that. You have to pay attention to all the things around you that get you excited, that make you happy, that bring you joy, that get that fire going, that make you feel passionate, right? Okay, so once you find out what that is, you have to write, this is such a cool thing to do. You write down what that desire is creating for you. So let's say that you wanted to create a business, and you know what the business is, and you're really excited about it. And the first step in creating that business is to actually write down how it's going to feel when that business is super successful, what you're going to be like, what you're going to dress like, what you're going to act like. And once you write it all down and you get really clear about that picture, it's to become that. So you become that any way you possibly can. You either change your clothes, you act different because you're excited, because you feel like your desire has already manifested. So you have to be in vibrational alignment to the desire, and that's how you do it. If you want more love, you have to give more love. So give what is missing. If you want more excitement, you first have to feel more excitement. You have to find something to be excited about. Ask for the things you are missing, and they will present themselves to you. So if you don't know what it is, if you don't know what is missing, if you don't know what your desire is, if you don't know what you're passionate about, you just ask, right? Picture yourself living the life you want and feel how that would feel. So this is going to be, in a meditation, a visualization. You close your eyes, you go within, and you ask yourself, what does that life feel like? What do I feel like? What do I dress like? What do I act like? What do I look like? Who are my friends? And you get a picture, a vision of what it is for you to create. I love this saying. This is such a cool realization. There is an unseen life that dreams us. It knows our true direction and destiny. We can trust ourselves more than we realize, and we need have no fear of change. And the fact that you can dream it means it already exists. That is so cool. The fact that you had a vision of it, the fact that you felt excited about it, means it already exists. I know that's like really woo woo and out there, but the fact of the matter is, you cannot have a vision for something without having the ability to manifest it, because you have the energy, because something was given to you. Something was given to you to have you create that dream. And the fact that you have that dream and you have that vision means it has to manifest. And your only work, your only job is to get plugged in, to stay happy, to notice what you're doing when you're feeling happy and passionate, and to create a high vibration for yourself where that stuff is, to line up with the vibration of what that is. That's your only work. It seems so simple, and it is so simple. We just get in our own way so often. So the fact that you can dream it means it already exists. To me, that just gives me so much ease. That makes me feel so relieved that I know that everything that I'm dreaming, everything that's in my mind already exists. I just have to step into it. I just have to level myself up to it. I mean, that's the work, and that's really, really exciting to me to be able to do that. Make a list of feelings that your dream emits. Practice feeling those feelings as often as you can. So this says, don't be afraid of the space between your dreams and reality. If you dream it, you can make it so. So the idea is to make a list of the feelings that your dream actually emits from you. So you're going to get that vision in your head, and then you're going to write down, because remember, writing is the strongest form of focus. You're going to write down what that dream feels like, what it feels like to be living that dream. Okay? And then throughout the day, you're going to help yourself practice those feelings. You're going to look at your thing and you're going to say, oh, that feels like appreciation. I'm going to spend as much time as I can in appreciation. Oh, I want to be surrounded by love. I'm going to give out more love. I'm going to love the cashier at Target. That's what I'm going to do. Just give out more love. I'm going to set the world in a higher vibrational place, because that's where all my dreams are. That's where the lining up of the dreams is. So make a list of feelings that your dream creates within you, because remember, it's not just the thoughts, right? If you're into affirmations or anything, it's not the saying of them, it's the actual feeling behind them that creates the energy. It's the feeling that brings that stuff to you. So it's having those feelings that is so important. And meditation, raising your vibration to line up with your dreams. So most of you out there know that I'm a total nut for meditation. And I have to say that I've been doing, this is my work. I've been doing about an hour of meditation a day, sometimes an hour and a half, because I'll do it twice. And, I'm blessed to have the time to do that in my life, but I'm also very committed to it. I've taken, the commitment to practice this because I know that it's going to move me towards my dreams. I know that it's going to help me to create and expand and become more of who I really am. And that is the most important thing to me right now. It's to be fully awake. It's to wake other people up. So I have to be fully awake to help other people wake up. And that is my mission right now. That is what I get excited about. That is what I am passionate about. So if you have not committed to a meditation practice, I'm going to highly, 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 highly suggest it. I suggest 20 minutes, once a day, 20 minutes twice a day, an hour, whatever you can do, whatever you can manage. And, most of the time I'll do silent ones, but lately I've been doing ones, and I sent this out to a few people, it's Jude Smith. You have to actually YouTube Jude Smith Meditations, and she's on YouTube, and she's amazing, and she actually helps you to release. She's an energy healer, and I just think she's amazing, and I think her meditations really kind of taken me to a whole new place. I feel like I'm vibrating a lot higher. Sometimes I get up and I'm completely dizzy. I mean, this is the kind of meditation we want to get into, where we get so deep and so fully connected that no one can unplug us. So I have to tell you, my life has been super amazing and super happy since I've been doing this. And I know it's not realistic to say that I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, but if you can commit to it, even if you can commit to it for 21 days, I'm going to tell you it's one of the most important things you can do in this world to become more of who you are and to full on connect with the power that you are and to recognize and realize and to really come into that knowing. I think that's what meditation, the most important thing about meditation is, it clears out all this stuff and it helps us to become more self-confident and really connected to who we are. But the other thing that it does is it gives us that knowing. When you're plugged into that creative life force, I had mentioned this in the beginning, it's like there's nothing in my way. I just know everything's going to work out. So when you have that knowing, your vibration is so high that, people just come around you and they're connected. People just come around you and they feel plugged in because you're plugged in. They'll go, oh, wow, you have such great energy. I just love it. So, that's meditation, and I would highly, highly recommend it. So I don't have a meditation prepared for you guys tonight, but because I'm so in love with Jude Smith, I'm gonna recommend that you look her up because she's got about 10 of them on there. They're super long. They really are. They're like 40 to an hour. But if you can even just do half of one and then do the other half later, I'm gonna highly recommend that just because I've been having incredible results with that. So with that, that concludes our relationship law of attraction. And I am totally blessed to be able to teach you guys this and to come from my experience and share so much of who I am. And, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will talk to you later. Take care.